Hello and welcome to Murfreesboro Storytellers. We're proud to be here to present another program of interest, and we're glad to have as our guest for today's program, Dr. Gloria Bonner, retired from MTSU and a very important and busy community activist. Dr. Bonner, welcome.
Thank you so much, and thank you for this great opportunity to spend this time with you.
Gloria, you're a native of Murfreesboro and a graduate of MTSU, right?
I am, and you know, all three school systems are responsible for all, and I give them all the credit for the great educational experiences that I had. I attended Bradley Elementary School. As you know, Mrs. Emma Roberts was my principal
Oh, yes.
from grades 1 through 8. And then I attended Holloway High and graduated from Holloway in 1968. Mr. Stevens was my principal there for 2 years. And then Mr. Collier Ara Woods was the principal. We were the last graduating class at Holloway High School.
Okay.
Yes. And then MTSU. And I'm just so grateful for that experience because I lived within walking distance of MTSU on First Avenue, and just thrilled to have the opportunity to attend college in my hometown. And there you may remember a young man who was a community stakeholder, Mr. Robert Lassiter.
I sure do.
Yes, very helpful there. I met him through Mr. Ewell Willis.
Okay.
Who you remember.
Longtime friend, right?
Yes, exactly. And Mr. Ewell Willis and my grandfather were very good friends. They were deacons in our church, Mount Zion Primitive Baptist Church here in Murfreesboro. And Mr. Ewell Willis introduced me to Mr. Robert Lassiter. And Mr. Lassiter was responsible for me attending MTSU. And I am forever grateful to him. Yes.
I can imagine. Now, where's your doctorate from, Dr. Bonner?
Okay, I got my bachelor's degree from MTSU, my master's degree, and my specialist degree. And then I enrolled at Tennessee State University under Dr. Doug Simpson, who was the program director there. And whenever there were courses that they had not yet developed in my program, Dr. Simpson arranged for me to take those classes on the campus at Peabody College there at Vanderbilt. Yes.
Well, good. Gloria, tell me about the several roles that you played as a member of the faculty and staff at MTSU.
Okay. It was always my dream to become a faculty member at MTSU. And during my freshman year, fall of 1968, one of the introductory meetings with students, that it was an orientation, and they asked me, what is it that you want to do with your life? And I said, I want to work at MTSU. And so remembering that, Dr. Ralph White called me 13 years later when I was working in DeKalb County Schools, 12 miles southeast of Atlanta. He remembered that and offered me an opportunity to return home to complete my doctorate degree and join the staff within the Department of Educational Leadership. Then it was youth services and school personnel. And we then changed the name to Educational Leadership years later. But Dr. Ralph White was the department chair. He was the department chair there for 29 years and a very influential mentor of mine.
I can imagine. I remember Ralph well.
Yes. So in 1985, It was summer of '85. He gave me a call and he said, "I've got an offer I don't want you to refuse." And I jumped on that. Yes.
Tell me about the various roles in that you filled at MTSU
Okay.
besides faculty member.
Well, I started out as faculty. It was the first year of the program, the Academic Enrichment Program,
Okay.
and the Department of Ed Leadership offered the study skills component of that program. So Dr. White needed faculty members who had a connection to public schools as well as had an interest in working with university students, beginning students, in offering them an opportunity to become oriented, more familiar with the expectations of a college environment. So I got an opportunity to teach study skills along with Terry Weeks, who, as you know, was the National Teacher of the Year. So they
Yes,
brought the
well.
two of us in, along with Nancy Keys, who was with Rutherford County Schools. So the three of us were a part of the Ed Leadership Department in offering the orientation piece of the Academic Enrichment Program. Yes. Then from there, as I continued working on my doctorate degree, I earned I started out as instructor and then earned the opportunity to become an assistant professor. And as you know, we are evaluated on quality teaching, our research abilities, and community service, all three. And from year to year, you have to document and submit that information to your peer department and be evaluated in that regard. So from assistant professor to associate professor, and then full professor. It takes about 15 to 16 years. But during that time, there's a young man by the name of Dean Bob Aker, who was very influential to the development of my higher ed career. And he made an offer to me to consider being the first assistant dean to be responsible for the management of the teacher ed program.
Okay.
Because at the time, teacher education was offered through the College of Education and Behavioral Science. So he said, now you've got to make this work because all of the other colleges would like to have a position of this nature, and we're counting on you to be effective in this role. So Bob Aker has been instrumental in my professional growth and development. From there, as assistant dean, I was then promoted to associate dean and got the opportunity to work with Bob Aker for approximately 13 years in both roles, and then became the dean of the College of Education and Behavioral Science for 11 years.
Okay.
After that, in 2008, I became the assistant to the president in the Office of University Community Relations. And John, as you know, one of my highest honors was the opportunity to work with the state representative, Mr. John Hood.
Well,
Yes.
Frank, it was my honor to be able to work directly for and with you.
Oh, those were some exciting times. I worked at MTSU for a total of 32 years and reported to 5 presidents,
Oh, my word.
starting with Dr. Sam Ingram,
Right.
who during my undergraduate years was the dean of the College of Education.
Okay. All right.
So we've always had this fantastic relationship. And when I started working on my dissertation, Dr. Ingram walked up to me at a reception, and I said, Dr. Ingram, do you have any advice for me? And he said, just remember to work on something related to your dissertation every 24 hours.
Hmm,
And that was the best advice that he'd ever given me.
interesting.
But I just enjoyed working with him. He had the best laugh. And he would tell me great stories. And I was so encouraged by him. I did not ever want to disappoint either of them because they believed in my ability to be able to accomplish all of those goals. Yes.
The other presidents you worked for now, in addition to Dr. Ingram.
Dr. Prescott was the interim president between Dr. Ingram and then Dr. Walker, Jim Walker, and then Dr. Jean Smith, and of course, Dr. Sidney McPhee. Yes, those 5 presidents. Each one were instrumental in my development there on the campus. Very encouraging, yes.
Okay. Well, you're now assistant to the president, working for community affairs and several things that brought you into several different interesting situations.
Oh, yes, of course. And, it just expanded my territory in terms of the individuals that we were able to work with in that capacity. And I remember some advice that I received from Mr. John Cochran, who was the senior vice president at MTSU at the time. And he said to me, if you are in your office, you are not doing your job. So the expectation was to be completely engaged in the community. And John, as you recall, we formed the Community Engagement Council, which consisted of leaders throughout the Middle Tennessee community in various capacities. In their leadership roles within their respective communities. If you remember Judge Bobby Sands,
I do,
who was a member of our council, and prior to that, my previous relationship with Bobby Sands was that he was our SGA president during my undergraduate years. So we also got the opportunity to work with Susan Brennan, who was one of the administrators at Nissan. And if you recall, Mayor Eugene Ray, who was mayor of Bedford County then. And then, of course, we had Dr. Phyllis. We had Dr. Phyllis Qualls Brooks, who was highly influential on the TSU campus, but also with the State Department, with the Office of Women Empowerment. So that's just an example of a few. And then my dear heart, Dean Judy Smith, if you remember, she was our Dean of Women at MTSU during the time that I was enrolled in undergrad school, and tremendously influential then as an undergraduate student, as well as throughout my academic career at MTSU.
You mentioned Judge Sands. He and I shared an office in the Tennessee House of Representatives together.
Oh, wow. He's just an outstanding person to work with and to get to know.
Yeah, Bobby, I've known him very well when he was a student, president of the student body, and involved with him over the years.
Sure. So we had just a blue ribbon committee at the time that we were able to work with them those years, approximately 10 years together as a council, community engagement council. And it gave us an opportunity to showcase to community stakeholders all the wonderful and outstanding things that we offer at MTSU to the community. It was also a valuable recruitment tool because I can just imagine they would go back to their respective communities, John, and tell the communities what we offered to everyone within the region and also the Southeast United States.
Yeah, it gave us an opportunity to make known to the citizens of the area what was going on at MTSU that they might not otherwise know about.
That's right. So we just, it was really, and we would host them quarterly. So about 3 to 4 times a year, we would showcase all the outstanding academic programs that we offered so they could carry that valuable information back to the respective middle schools as well as high schools and encourage students to consider MTSU. Because at the time, remember, we were the fastest growing institution in the state of Tennessee.
True.
Yes, yes.
Well, since you've retired, you've been active in the community. I know you were even before you retired. How long have you been retired, Dr. Bonner? 2 years?
I've been retired. It will be 4 years, March 1, 2021. Time goes by quickly. And when I lived in Atlanta, I always would pray, God, get me back to my Murfreesboro community, the community that I really, really love, because I just had so many positive experiences here, as well as wonderful people. It was really all about the people that influenced my life. And I just wanted to come back to Murfreesboro to do the same for other people. Yes.
And you did, and did so well for so many years.
And had such great teachers. Here's one routine I always had upon my return. I had this little secret group that consisted of Mrs. Emma Roberts,
Yes.
Dr. Mary Tom Berry, and Miss Boughton, Miss Ruth Boughton. And every month we would meet for lunch.
Oh, wonderful.
And I got an opportunity to just learn about their educational experiences. And they would lean into me and would say, now, we're not trying to tell you what to do, but here's what we think. And it was invaluable. The experiences that they shared with me and the wisdom that they offered. And I learned so much from them about the higher ed process and how to engage the community, and also their life lessons. That was very important to me. And every Christmas Eve, Dr. Mary Tom Berry and I had a tradition. I knew that she loved hot chocolate.
Oh, boy.
And so every Christmas Eve, around 10 o'clock, we would have brunch, just the two of us, at her home. And we'd spend about 2 hours together and just listen to her reminiscing about her career in education. And as you know, Dr. Berry not only was my undergraduate reading instructor, she was the department chair in the Department of Ed Leadership and not ed leadership, but elementary and special education for many years, but just an outstanding person. So, and remember, Dr. Berry loved playing tennis. And I came from a tennis family. My parents, Hampton Turner and Gracie Turner, were responsible for teaching a lot of the youth in the Bradley Holloway community how to play tennis. So tennis was another connection that we had, because I always loved watching Mr. Baxter Hopgood
Yes.
and that group play tennis on the MTSU campus. And Dr. Mary Tom Berry was one of those tennis players that we would watch playing before we started playing there. Yes.
Yeah, Mr. Hopgood, that was one of his real joys, was playing tennis.
Exactly. And I love it. You could tell he enjoyed it. And I loved watching him play. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And as you know, Mr. Hopgood was the superintendent of Murfreesboro City Schools. So he and Ms. Roberts were responsible for helping me to get my first job in education
Okay.
when he hired me at Mitchell Nielsen Elementary School in the fall of 1972.
Mr. Hopgood was my high school principal. And
Oh,
then later, I had the joy of serving on the city school board when he was superintendent.
oh,
He and Mrs.
wow.
Hopgood were longtime friends.
Yes, exactly. We became very close friends as well. Yes.
Well, Gloria, you've had a great career in education, and you've certainly had a lot of experiences since you before you retired and since you retired in the community with
Yes.
various organizations. Tell us about some of those.
Okay. As you know, I serve on a number of boards, and which is the absolute joy of my life. And I have often heard you say, service is the rent that you pay while here on earth. And I have taken that to heart, John, and certainly appreciate the opportunity of serving on the boards. The Main Street Board is the board that's responsible for the preservation and vitalization of the downtown community, because we know that the downtown community really is the centerpiece of every community. So we enjoy offering the services there in helping to revitalize that area. And we offer the Jazz Fest every year, as well as other initiatives that will encourage people to consider establishing a business there, and also to consider the entire community to support the vibrancy of downtown and Main Street, because you think about Main Street as well as our valuable downtown historic courthouse. It just does my heart well when you stand in the center of the courthouse and you think about all roads lead to Middle Tennessee State University from there. Yes, so that is a joy, and I'm still on that board. I'm currently serving as secretary of the executive board on Main Street. And I also have the honor of serving on the Ascension St. Thomas Board of Directors. Yes, that is also gratifying to me, because I'm one of those citizens that was actually born in Rutherford Hospital years ago
Okay.
on University. Yes. So it just is a thrill to be able to serve in that capacity and to better inform the community about all of the services offered through St. Thomas. And I'm also a member of the United Way Board of Directors, and I'm chairing right now, co-chairing along with Courtney Chavez, on behalf of Megan Flippen, who is the executive director. We're co-chairing the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Initiative on behalf of the United Way Board of Directors of Rutherford and Cannon County. So there are several boards that I serve on, and I am president-elect for July 2021-22
Okay.
of the Murfreesboro Noon Rotary Club. So I am president in training right now.
Okay.
Bill King is currently the president for this year, but looking forward to a year of exciting opportunities with the Noon Rotary Club.
Yeah, Rotary has been a very vital part of this community.
Oh, yes. And we've just celebrated 100 years here. So I'm sure for you that you can name so many of the previous members that have been quite influential to our community. Service above self is our motto.
Very good.
And we try to make sure that that is evident in everything we do.
Anything else you're involved in, Dr. Bonner?
Well, I serve on the Murfreesboro Park and Recs Commission
Right.
as
Okay.
well. And what a great community to be a part of. My daughter had the opportunity to grow up playing basketball here in Murfreesboro as well as softball. And we just have outstanding facilities in the community. And as you know, soccer is really, really growing.
Very definitely. Very
Yes, but we are, do you remember Ray Duffy?
definitely. One of my best friends ever.
I always enjoyed watching him as a leader in the Parks and Rec Commission,
Right.
and then Dennis Rainier and Lanny Goodwin. So it's just an honor to be able to serve in that capacity with Parks and Rec and continue. I was, Mayor Bragg approached me years ago and asked me to serve on the rehabilitation initiative with Patterson Park. And at the time, Vice Mayor Ron Washington chaired that committee, and I was able to facilitate the process of the revitalization of Patterson Park, which is a community that I grew up in. It
Sure.
was quite an honor to serve in that capacity.
Dr. Patterson will be so pleased and excited about the wonderful progress we've made there.
Oh, yes. And he was so instrumental in my early years, particularly at Bradley, because Dr. Patterson was the dentist that provided our dental visits twice a year, every fall and every spring. And our classes would walk to his office. But in addition to that, Dr. Patterson was a close family friend of ours.
Sure. Yeah.
And during my 7th and 8th grade years, I was responsible for going to his office every afternoon after school and sterilizing his instruments for him.
Sure enough.
Yes. So I learned a lot from his wife. As well as because she was very active in the American Red Cross, and as well as Dr. Patterson. And he would always say, "I'll pay you later." And I looked forward to that, but he paid me back in ways that I could never measure.
I'm sure.
So that was always a special honor for me.
Dr. Bonner, it's a joy having you as our guest on Murfreesboro Storytellers. What a life, what a career you've had in education and in the community doing so many wonderful things.
Well, thank you so much for the opportunity, and I look forward to continuing to work with you.
Will be my pleasure as well, Dr. Bonner.
Thank you.
We've enjoyed having Dr. Gloria Bonner as our special guest on Murfreesboro Storytellers. Thank you for joining us.
Bye-bye.